Welcome to the Hyrox Runner channel. This video is a record of my journey from beginner to my first Hyrox in Warsaw in 19 weeks. My first real experience of Hyrox was in London Olympia when I went to go and watch my daughter and her boyfriend take part in their first Hyrox event. At the time, I had no inclination to take part in the event and was really impressed with all the athletes. However, having just returned from the Arctic Marathon, I felt that I needed a new challenge. So one day when I was sitting on the rowing machine in the gym, I had a light bulb moment thinking that I enjoy rowing and therefore why don't I try and take part in a Hyrox event. Wanting to do things properly, I approached someone I knew who was an online Hyrox coach, and she set me a plan which started the first week I was on a holiday. In addition, I decided to buy some equipment, which was the wall ball and some weights, and joined a new local gym that had all the Hyrox equipment such as sleds, ski ergs and the wall ball platform. I met up with Sam on my return from holiday and she went through all the basics of all the stations. And as you can see, my first attempts at wall balls were definitely an area to concentrate on. In fact, the wall balls proved to be very problematic, and even up until 2 weeks before the Hyrox event in Warsaw, I didn't know whether I was going to compete due to my total lack of confidence in being able to carry out 100 wall balls correctly. With Sam's help and much perseverance, I'm delighted to say that I managed to complete 100 wall balls at the event, even though I did have 12 no reps. More details to follow later. Sam set me a 6-day plan with 3 days of varied running. Compromised running was new to me, however after a few attempts I got used to that aspect of training. After 10 weeks out of the 19 weeks, I took part in my first sim. I would highly recommend taking part in a sim as part of your training. In fact, I did too. I was so nervous on my way to the sim and nearly turned around and went home. However, the competitors and the organisers all made me feel most welcome. Everything was going so well until I got to the wall balls, which was an absolute disaster. I just couldn't hit the target or the correct depth. I managed 100 wall balls, but they were far from perfect. I still had 9 weeks to correct my technical difficulties with wall balls. I'd come a long way from when I first started, and with Sam's help and an adapted training plan, Sam was confident that I would complete 100 wall balls correctly in Warsaw. When I started my journey back in December, I looked at the winner of my age group at the previous event in Dublin and set that time as my target for my first event. Although my first sim times look favourable, it doesn't take account of the fact that my wall balls weren't perfect and also that the rock zone was much smaller than it would be on the day. Also, someone said to me that in a sim you should add at least 5 or 10 minutes. However, it did give me confidence to know that I was in the ballpark area. With 9 weeks to go, I continued training hard. I added Pilates to my training week for more flexibility, particularly with the wall balls and my tight ankles, and I took part in my second sim. I felt much more confident in this sim, and with only 4 weeks to go until the actual event itself, I could see my improvements, although I still had certain issues with wall balls, but they were getting much better. I went into my second sim with a strategy of 10 times 10 wall balls with a 10 to 20 second break, which was much better but still wasn't perfect. I still had quite a few weeks to work on this. My overall time improved on my second sim and I was much happier with the actual quality of every station. For the remaining 4 weeks leading up to Hyrox in Warsaw, I just concentrated on those areas that needed tweaking, such as wall balls, lunges and burpee broad jumps. Then with 2 weeks to go in a gym session, I nailed 100 wall balls in a really respectable time. So off I went to Warsaw full of confidence. The experience was absolutely amazing and I really felt comfortable in a lot of the stations, with the only real wobble being at the wall balls where I had 12 no reps. However, I still managed to complete the 100 in a respectable time and was absolutely delighted with my overall time, which beat the target I had set originally 19 weeks before. Not only was I delighted with my time, I also qualified to represent England in the World Championships in Chicago in June, which I'll feature in my next video. Also, in future videos, I will be comparing and contrasting my current journey to Hyrox Championships and my attempt at going below 20 minutes for a 5k. So from me, the Rox Runner, bye for now.